Saraswatiji. Welcome to Satsang, and thank you so much for bringing that beautiful sacred sound to our sacred space. I'll begin with a question that came in advance. Actually, I'll begin with one from here, and then we had another question that had come earlier in Swamiji's garden, but I'm not sure if they've all come yet. You were the one who asked that, yeah? So let's start with your question then. Then we'll take one of these. Yes. Yes, repeat the question.
So my question was around the practice which, so there is at one side organizations which are working on inner peace, so components of meditation when you are like spending time with yourself, trying to understand your own ways of improving your from inside. And the second component of organizations which are working on peace education or value-based education, where things comes as a capacity building program on knowledge or skill or attitude. But so there is this dilemma I want to know from you, because I'm trying to do both the things. So is it really possible to have peace or the kind of negotiation or meditation we want to have between countries or between individuals without having understanding of the self, like inner peace? So is these kind of training programs are enough, or like first we need to have these and then these can be supplementary programs?
Okay, so it was a great question, and just to simplify it a bit and to repeat it for those of you who didn't necessarily hear it here, and especially for those joining us from different parts of the world, the question is, in peace-building work, as we've been having this event, this celebration, this training for the last few days, there's two aspects of work. One is what we call capacity building, actually teaching skills and techniques of bringing peace. And then, of course, there's the work of inner peace, the actual meditative work. And he's saying, can you actually do any of this work without the inner peace? What's the role that each of these two aspects play? And do they have to go together? Does it even work? Is there really any point? And what's necessary? So, first of all, you're absolutely right that unless you have peace inside, you cannot bring peace to others. You only can give to the world that which you have. Excuse me. So, if I'm not in peace, if internally I'm stressed, I'm depressed, I'm judgmental, and everyone I meet I'm thinking, oh, here's what's wrong with this person, here's what's wrong with this person, and I'm like that. Or I'm very competitive, or I'm very negative, this is never going to work, right? I can't do it, you can't do it. Whatever it may be that's keeping me from being at peace inside. My ego. No, you can't get peace until I get there, right? I'm supposed to do it. I'm the one, I know how to do it, let me do it. So any aspect that brings me out of my own inner peace is going to be an impediment, obviously, to any kind of peace work I can do. Because the thing is, when you actually think about peace work and you think about reconciliation work, we're not dealing with dummies. We're not dealing with people who don't understand. It's not that we're going to walk in and somehow tell them something they don't already know. That viewpoint is not only wrong, but it's actually so patronizing and condescending that it impedes us from being able to be agents of anything positive. What I have to offer is the peace of my being, along with certain skills that I've learned of how to channel that peace into ways that can help other people find peace. So, first of all, we must be at peace inside. If you get there through meditating, wonderful. If you get there through introspecting and contemplating or praying, wonderful. If you get there through gardening, wonderful. I hesitate to sit here with all of you, even just those I see before me, of so many different races and religions and colors and cultures and ages and backgrounds. Not to mention people joining us from around the world online who I don't even know what countries and cultures and religions they're from. I hesitate to sit here and to say it must be through meditation. And the reason is that people have different ways of finding that peace. They have different ways of accessing it. They may have different words for it. If we can say that meditation encompasses everything through which I connect with the divine in me and outside of me, then I'm good with using that word. But I just hesitate to use a word that's an important part of my life and to say that's the only way. So the internal peace is crucial. And if we assume that meditation is anything that connects me back to the truth of who I am, then yes, it's the best way. Sometimes it's our eyes closed, our legs are crossed, we're in a dark room. We're reciting a prayer or chanting a mantra or looking at a divine image. But for some people, meditation is with their hands in the dirt, planting trees, growing flowers. For some, that experience of meditation can take so many different forms. Eyes closed, eyes open, legs crossed, legs straight, legs walking. You're right. It's not just a technique. There's no, peace building for dummies booklet out there. It's not just such a simple skill, right? I mean, you can go to the bookstore and you can buy this for dummies, that for dummies, this for... You didn't pay attention in school, no problem. Buy this book of, calculus for dummies and it'll teach you. But there's no peace building for dummies. Because you actually have to do the inner work first. There's no shortcut. And that brings us to an interesting point, which is that the techniques are very beneficial and very helpful in this aspect of capacity building. Is fantastic. But we also have to remember that the who of the being that's doing it is just as important than all of the techniques. I can say the right words. I can go through my checklist of the right points to follow. But if I'm not an embodiment of peace myself, it's not going to carry any weight. Right? I mean, how many people have ever been told, I love you, by someone who you know didn't love you, but they were just saying it for some reason? I mean, we all know what it feels like when somebody's just trying to butter you up. And we know that. We feel that intuitively, and so we don't buy it. the same way, if you walk into situations just with the right words or the right techniques, but without actually the felt experience of peace, it's not going to work. So yes, that inner peace is crucial. Pujya Swamiji always says, if you are in peace, you spread peace. You manifest peace. But if you are in pieces, he says, that's all you're going to spread, no matter how much your capacity has been built. So that is crucial. But then it's also really important to realize that there is a very important role for these skills, because if what I'm looking to do is be in peace and bring peace to those I meet, I could do that without much capacity building. I could do that just as a peaceful being. Because when I interact with someone out of peace and love, they feel it. Maybe they come stressed and depressed and upset and in turmoil. But in the presence of love and peace, their energy changes. They feel more peaceful. They experience love. But if I'm looking to do that on more of a systematic level, a programmatic level, to bring love and peace not just to individuals where I'm going, but actually to communities and nations, many of whom I may not be interacting on a very intimate, direct level with, these skills are of great value, great importance. They've been put together by people who have spent their lives trying to help others find peace, trying to help others reconcile. And so if you're looking to build a life as a peace builder, have both. The inner is crucial, but for this line of work, the outer is also really, really, really helpful. You're going to walk into a situation not only with your own inner peace, but also with so many skills and tools to be able to maneuver difficult situations and challenging situations. So you might as well have the best of both worlds. Yes. Are there any other questions here before I take any of those that came in advance? Okay, well I'll start with one that's come in advance, and then we'll see. How can we stop ourselves from pushing love away? How do we stop ourselves from pushing love away? All right. So the question, we went from a systematic question. This is what I'm going to do with my life, is bring peace, to a question on a very personal level. Why do I push away love in my life? And how can I stop doing that? And it's important to understand why we do that, because it's counterintuitive. Love is what we need. Love is what moves the universe. Love is the energy of the universe. When flowers open their petals and give us fragrance, you can just feel the love of the Creator and the creation in that. When the sun shines on us, you feel that love. I've shared many, many times that there's an illness of children called failure to thrive, which is actually a physical ailment. But it is due to children actually not getting held enough as children, as babies. So it's children who have been fed enough, given the right medicines, given a roof over their heads, given clothing, given shelter, given everything. But they don't grow. And it puzzled medical doctors for many, 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 many years, and they thought it was all sorts of different illnesses. And finally what they realized was the only thing that these but they weren't getting love. And so you actually literally need love to grow. You don't just need vitamins and minerals, contrary to what a lot of modern science is telling us. It's not just about take your vitamins. It's not just about your breakfast cereal. But we actually need love to survive and to grow. And so when we find ourselves pushing it away, it's important to understand, why am I doing that? So that I can stop doing it. And I do it because one of two reasons. Either because I don't feel worthy of it, that on some deep level I don't think I'm worthy of love. And we get that in a whole variety of ways. As very young children we get that. We are given love and acceptance based on what we do, not who we are. Based on our successes, based on our accomplishments. And so a lot of us tend to grow with this teaching that we are what we do, and our value on earth is contingent upon how we perform. And so if I don't feel like I'm performing well, I don't feel like I look beautiful, I don't feel like being a success, due to something I was told, something I was taught, due to something that happened in my life, due to some kind of a sanskara, an impression, that who I am at the core is wrong. That who I am at the core is bad, is dark, is evil, is dirty. And if that's true, then I definitely don't deserve love. And we go through the world feeling like the only people who like me are people who don't really know me. And we keep people away from us because we know if they get close enough to see the then they won't like me. They'll leave me. They'll hate me. They'll understand. And so we keep the world at an arm's length, lest anyone should get close enough to understand the darkness of who we really are. It's another reason. We also keep love away because it enables us to keep ourselves away. In order to love someone, I have to open my heart. And so if you just keep showering me with love, eventually, I'm going to start loving you. I mean, that's just the nature of love. As you shower me with love, my heart's going to open. But if I don't want my heart to open, if I'm attached to my heart staying closed, if I'm afraid of what's going to happen when my heart opens, I'm going to have to push you away because your love scares me. Your love is pushing me into a place in my own heart that I don't want to go to. Maybe I've been hurt in the past. I haven't yet forgiven. I'm holding on. I don't want to be hurt again. And so I've built a wall around my heart. I'm not going to love so I don't get hurt. I'm not going to love so I don't have to open up. If I can just keep myself closed, I can go through my life safely. But you loving me is forcing that melting of my heart. And if I don't want that melting of my heart, I'm going to push you away. And so that's another reason we do it. And the only way to stop doing it is to realize that whatever it is I'm afraid of, seeing the truth of myself, seeing my darkness, seeing my fears, seeing my shortcomings, that's nothing. Nothing compared to going through life without loving. If we don't love, we really haven't lived. Because if we don't love, we haven't experienced God. You cannot experience God without opening your heart to love. And it doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter what your spiritual tradition is. It doesn't matter whether you conceive of God with form or without form. Whether you conceive of God as the tree in your backyard or your grandmother. Or any of our more traditional forms of God. Doesn't matter. But you cannot connect with spirit. You cannot connect with the universe without love. And so if we don't love, we have literally cut ourselves off from life. So our body may still be alive, our heart may still be beating, our brain may still be making brain waves, but we essentially are dead. Our bodies may be fully grown, so we no longer are suffering as children did from failure to thrive. But thriving isn't just in the physical body. Thriving doesn't just mean my bones and muscles grow. Thriving means my being grows. And so love is what we need in order literally to live. And here's the beautiful part. It actually doesn't matter what you love. And so if you find that you're pushing love away, you don't have to jump in the deep end. You don't have to wake up tomorrow morning and say, okay, I'm going to love everyone and everything. I'm going to open myself up fully to love. And if I get hurt, I get hurt. You don't have to have that type of courage. If you do, fantastic. But if you don't worry. Just start loving something. Just allow yourself to love something. And again, it can be a tree. It can be a sunset. It can be love a baby in a stroller for 3 minutes. It's safe. You're never going to see them again. They're not going to come back and hurt you. Start safe. Start small. Because the truth is, whatever you love, you're loving God. Because if you're really loving essence, you're really loving spirit, in that being, in the child, in the tree, in your grandmother, in whatever it may be, if you're deeply loving, what you're loving is content, not form. You're not loving the baby just because the cheeks are big and cute and plump. And the love that you're experiencing is a love of seeing. You're able to, what makes us smile at babies and love them is they're just creation unbounded. There's no walls, there's no borders, there's no boundaries, there's no identity. Babies don't know colors or races or religion. The baby's not saying to you, and don't smile at me till you've gone home and lost that weight. You know, babies have no discrimination. All they want is love in your eyes. Look at a baby with love in your eyes and what you get back is love. And that's why all of us, there is something universal. Doesn't matter who we are. Put us in front of a baby in a crib, baby in a stroller, baby in a mother or father's arms. Put us in line in front of them or behind them. And there is something universal about all of us that's going to make us reach out and connect with that baby. Similarly with with nature. There's something about nature that pulls that out of us. So if you find that you're pushing love away, start small, start temporary. Love a tree, love a baby, love a bird. Love a bird that comes to a tree in your backyard. Put out a bird feeder, some food. Let the birds come and feed at the feeder in your garden. And allow yourself to stand there and watch them. And begin to love them. Begin to wait for them to come every day. Begin to think about them and make sure that there's always food in the feeder. Because what that's going to do is it's going to slowly, slowly start to thaw out your heart. It's going to slowly start to melt the walls around your heart. And as that happens, what you're going to find is that you're able to love more. And then slowly, the love goes from loving one small thing to loving maybe something bigger, to loving many bigger things. Ultimately, when we come back to loving God, there's a beautiful line in the prayers that we sing in the Ganga Arati that says, the highest form of love is love for God. The highest form of love is love for God. We sing that every night. And so it reminds us that whatever we're loving, remember that ultimately I should be loving God through this being. How, through loving this being before me, can I love God? And ultimately let it take you to loving God. And that, of course, makes loving the creation even easier. Because then we expect less of it. Our problem with when most of us love is that our love is wrapped up with expectations. I love you as long as you act in a certain way, you speak in a certain way, you treat me in a certain way. And this is where we fall in love and then we fall out of love. I fall in love because of what you do. I fall out of love because of what you stop doing. And if we can actually make that love a love of the divine, then what time that person is coming home, whether they're helping with the dishes, we don't find ourselves falling in and out of love. We don't find ourselves needing all of that reassurance in order not to get hurt. So love becomes the energy of life in our lives. And yeah, you had another question about that. Yes.
So, a lot of people have said, and I have read a lot of autobiographies, a lot of sense, that they want to achieve more knowledge, more, they want to become better in whatever they want to do. Then they go through a lot of hardship. So a lot of people have said that it's not what people's success is what they make them, it's more of their failures what they make them, or hardship really teaches people. Then sometimes as a young peace builder and also going to be a father, I feel like how much protectivism like one should have for the children or for the individuals, or how much we should let them face and let them learn from it. Because only nature knows the right.
Of course.
Like human doesn't know it. Nature knows for flower, for tree, for earth,
Yes.
for us. How should we make that better?
Okay. Parents, and how much do we allow them to experience hardship, knowing that they're going to grow? Well, there isn't a cookie cutter one answer because it depends on the age of the child, depends on the situation. So for example, no one would say, oh yeah, sure, take your newborn, dump him in the woods. It's good, it'll build character. They'll learn how to survive. We understand that a newborn requires someone to feed them, someone to dress them and keep them warm, and that if you put a newborn in the woods, it's going to die. But then children grow. There's all sorts of fantastic programs for youth and teenagers, outward bound type of programs that take young kids into the woods, teenagers into the woods. Give them a space, allow them to be in the woods. Give them that teaching of nature. Allow it to build character, allow it to build a connection with nature, some survival instincts, some courage. But you would never do that in a tiger preserve. So even though we understand, okay, these kids are able to take care of themselves at the age of 13, 14, 15, 16, whatever, for 24 hours, give them some water, give them some granola, whatever it is. But yeah, they can take care of themselves, and it's good because that does build character. But not in a tiger preserve. So we understand intuitively where there's enough, just enough difficulty that it's going to be helpful, and where it's actually putting them at a stupid risk, unnecessary. And you should avoid it wherever you can. With trees, we're speaking today about trees, and when you plant trees, you always have to put a tree guard around it, or here in India at least you do, because otherwise the monkeys will come and eat it, other animals will come and eat it, and your tree will be over. If you plant a tiny little sapling without a tree guard, something will come and eat it for sure. But then people will come and steal your tree guard for the scrap metal to sell it. We put these metal tree guards around trees, and then you find your tree guard's been stolen. So then we hire guards to protect the tree guards. True story. But that's only for a temporary period of time, because once the tree gets its roots deeply in the ground, once the tree grows and is strong, a monkey can come and swing on its branches. And it's not going to have any impact on the tree, let alone uproot it. So it's temporary. And in the same way with children, with communities that you're bringing to peace, with anything that's new, it needs some kind of literal or metaphoric tree guard around it. It's like, take people who have just overcome addiction. Come right out of rehab. Well, no one's going to say, oh yeah, you should go back to hanging out with the same people you used to hang out with. Oh yeah, you should go right back into the same community, go back to doing exactly the same things you did before, but just make sure not to drink or use. Always, always what they're taught is how to do different things, how to make different friends, how not to go back to where they used to be. This is what halfway houses are about. With the awareness that when you come out of rehab, you really are like a new sapling. And you really need a period of time to make sure that your sobriety gets very deep roots before you start walking past bars again or past the areas where you used to do drugs. And so whether it's a past of addiction or a past of conflict, whatever it may be, wherever it's new, so a new young child, a new peaceful society, a new sobriety, we need those metaphoric tree guards around them to protect it. And so you don't want to throw, for example, an unnecessarily stressful situation upon a society that has just finally found peace between themselves. right? I mean, we know, for example, that the death of a child tends very frequently to lead to a divorce between the parents. Why? Because if you have a marriage that was not necessarily so stable to begin with, and then you put that level of stress onto it, a lot of times it can't handle that extra stress. So in the same way, if you've got people or societies that are with a very tenuous piece that you've just built, you want to be sure as much as possible, to whatever extent you have the ability, to try not to throw massively stressful situations upon them. Similarly with children. When they're young, protect them as much as you can. Don't throw a newborn into the woods or in the deep end of a swimming pool. Protect them. Let them understand that the world is a safe place. But you don't have to be overly protective. Don't make them afraid. Keeping them safe does not mean you have to make them afraid. And as they grow, you'll know. You'll feel it inside as they start to grow too big for that tree guard, as they start to push against you. Come on, Dad, why can't I ride my bike to school? All the other kids are doing it. Come on, Dad. You'll feel that. And that's when you want to start letting kids have enough freedom that they are able to negotiate their way through things, because what it does is, it's not just about building character. What it does is it gives them faith in themselves. It helps them know, I'm strong enough, I'm wise enough, I'm resourceful enough, I'm capable enough to take care of myself. Kids who have been way too overly protected for way too long grow up afraid. They don't grow up with a sense of knowing that they have the skills and the resourcefulness to make their way through the world. But you'll figure this out as you go along. You don't have to know it all in advance. Just keep your heart open. Keep your own fears and ego in check. Make sure that it's not your agenda for the child. There's a beautiful poem by my favorite poet, Khalil Gibran, about raising children, which it speaks about your children. You should absolutely go and find the entire poem. I have it. I will give it to you as well. But it speaks about how your children come through you, but they are not yours. They are born from life's longing for itself. And how life moves forward and not backwards. And that your children are born from that longing of life to continue to move forward. And there's a beautiful line that says, seek not to make your children like you. You can teach them, but don't try to make them like you. I don't do justice to his incredible eloquence, but the teaching is very clear. Let them go forth. And the poem ends with the beautiful metaphor of being the bow from which the arrow flies. And that you are that bow. But an arrow, in order to fulfill its dharma, you could say, as an arrow, has to fly. If it never leaves the bow, it might as well have been a stick rather than an arrow. Or a piece of glue rather than an arrow. The point of an arrow is it flies. And the point of the bow is it makes the arrow fly. And so if you've got a bow that never lets go of the arrow, neither of them is fulfilling its purpose. So stay connected with yourself, and you'll be a fantastic father. It's going to come intuitively to you. Just keep checking in. Keep checking with yourself. Where's my own fear running me here? Where's my own ego running me here? Where's my own desire running me? Yes, of course. Wonderful. Are you here tomorrow?
No.
Are you with us tomorrow?
No.
No. Okay. So we'll end with this one. We'll take that one quickly and then conclude. Yes.
What do you begin to feel as you get closer to God or the Creator or the higher consciousness? How? Because for any endeavor it's important to track the progress. Otherwise, you don't know where you are, how you're getting to it. So what do you feel? What do you experience in your life, for example?
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you mean. So we laugh with you, not at you. We laugh because it's such a common question, actually, in a variety of different ways. But what's so tragically funny about it every time is how indoctrinated we are into the idea that there has to be somehow a ladder to climb, that there have to be rungs on a ladder for me to know how I'm doing, that there has to be some kind of an external measure for me to know. Well, spirituality doesn't have that. And if anybody tries to convince you, if any leader, any guru, any tries to convince you, now you're at level 1, you're at level 2. You're doing, beginner's work, you're doing intermediate work, you're doing advanced work, you're doing extra advanced work. I would be cautious. Because remember that spirituality is bringing us back to who we are. You could be a beginning, intermediate, or advanced student of outer space. But when we're talking about inner space, we're talking about going within to the truth of who we are. It's not a matter of becoming something new. It's a matter of unbecoming that which we are not. Most of us have spent most of our lives becoming something. Becoming a title, becoming a career, becoming a certain relationship, becoming a certain identity. Spirituality is the unbecoming of all of that. This is where, practices of meditation like neti neti, for example. Not this, not this, not that. It's not about you are this. Here's the beginner's explanation of what you are. Here's the advanced explanation. It's about I'm not this. I'm not that. And the minute I know what I'm not, and I can peel back enough layers of what I'm not, the experience of what I am is just there. So, first of all, don't look for any kind of external measures. Look for internal measures. And the internal measures of how to know if you're getting closer to God, I would say it's not going to be about, well, first you're going to see this color light, and then you're going to see that color, and then you'll see this shape, and then you'll see that shape. It's not like that. Check how you move through the world. At the end of every day, ask yourself, how many times did I lose my temper today? How many times was I jealous of someone else today? How many times did I wonder what's in it for me today? How many times did I not do what I could have done for someone else? Because I just didn't feel like it, I wasn't in the mood, I was tired, whatever it may be. Because the closer and closer you get to God, the closer and closer you get to peace, to love, to oneness. There's a beautiful story that I've heard shared from several different religious traditions, actually, at different times and different places. But the story is a story of a man who's a great devotee of God and very pious, very dedicated. And he's walking home one night, and it's a very, very cold night, winter night. And he's walking home, and a man on the street, a beggar on the street, asks him for his shawl. And he wants to give it. He's a good man. But then he worries, well, what am I going to do? I've got to walk home. And so he tears his shawl in half. And he gives half his shawl to the man on the street. Comes home, goes to sleep that night. And in his dream, I've heard it said that Jesus Christ, I've heard it said that Krishna, I've heard it from different religious traditions, but came to him. Whoever the divine is in that tradition came to him in his dream and was wearing only half a shawl. And he said, well, my Lord, why are you only wearing half a shawl? And the divine, in whichever form or name, depending on the different story, said to him, well, that's all you gave me. And so the reason that this story is so common amongst all of the different religious traditions is because we understand at the core that that which we worship as divine is present in our fellow beings. When Jesus Christ says, love thy neighbor as thyself, well, he didn't say your next door neighbor. He didn't say love the neighbor on your street. He didn't say love your neighbor within a 50-mile radius. There's no actual definition of neighbor here. It goes out, it goes out, it goes out, it goes out. And here's what's interesting. You cannot actually love someone at all, let alone as yourself, until you know them. And you can't possibly know all your neighbors. You could know your next door ones, you may know the ones on your street. But since he didn't clarify that, we don't know how far out he intended. You cannot know all your neighbors, which means the only way to love all of your neighbors is to understand that they are all a manifestation of, a creation of the God I love. Only by loving God can I love my neighbors. And so, as you get closer and closer to God, what you find is that you love more and more of the creation. Because you see your beloved in that creation, with form, without form, as just a reflection, as just an embodiment, whatever it may be. But as you get closer and closer to God, the Creator, you get closer and closer to the divine creation. And so check that with yourself every night. How lightly have I tread upon Mother Earth? Where have I chosen my sensory pleasures over what's better for others? In what I eat, and what I wear, and what I buy, and how I live, and how I speak. Where have I moved through the world like I was interacting with God at every step? And that's going to be your way of knowing how close you're getting. Doesn't matter how many rituals you're doing. If you're losing your temper and you're criticizing people and you're insulting people and you're harming people and you're treading with a heavy foot upon Mother Earth, there's a lot more work to be done. Which isn't bad. Just means we have to keep doing the work. The closer and closer you get, the lighter and lighter your footprint becomes. Not just lighter in weight, but literally light as well. And you start to bring the light to all. You become light, you become peace, and wherever you go, you spread that. Okay? Good.
Thank you.
Of course.